Welcome to the UU Meeting House in Springfield, Vermont. We're a covenantal community where we have promised to care for and to learn from each other. Together, we seek to deepen and broaden our faith and understanding. Your coming will enrich our covenant in our community. My name is Bob Allman. I'm one of the trustees. And today is Father's Day. And I wanted to share a little memory of my dad, Robert C. Allman. I'm C. Don't get old. For all of his working career, he worked in a factory that made nameplates. When you will think of nameplates, you will think of Yule, the E.V. Yule company. But what he did was to make it a really decent place to work. He became the supervisor, and for 25 years, it was just a good place to work. If you were working in a factory, this was a really good one to work at. And I went back after my 50th high school reunion, and the place was very similar. He had trained people to take over and do it his way, and they were. And of the 12 people working there, 6 were people that I had worked with when I worked there back 25 years before that. So, fond memories of my dad. If you're a guest today, we invite you to enjoy being with us. You can join after the service for refreshments and conversation. And we'll leave it there before I say anything wrong and screw things up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see so many faces here and up on the wall and in Zoom land. And as Bob mentioned, and I'm sure we're all aware, today is Father's Day. And I invite you to think about, is there something about your father, alive or dead, that you especially value and want to carry on? Bob was talking about his father and creating a very positive work environment. Well, what I'm going to share with you today is something I decided to pick up that my dad did every June, whether you wanted to hear it or not. Of course, we all did. And I was talking with my son, Rio, yesterday, and he remembers my dad reciting this every year. And it's a real pleasure to recite James Russell Lowell's poem, "What is so rare as a day in June?" Now, if you look it up, it's a very long poem, but the very beginning of it, I love. And where my dad chose to end it is, I think, a natural ending point. So here we go. What is so rare as a day in June? Then, if ever, come perfect days. Then heaven tries earth if she be in tune. And over her softly, her warm ear lays. And whether we look or whether we listen, we hear life murmur and see it glisten. Every clod feels a stir of might, an instinct within it that reaching blindly above it for light climbs to a soul in grass and flowers. And my mother's peonies to go with that. So yes, reflect on what your father might inspire you to carry on. And you can ask me anytime, and I will recite that at the drop of a hat. We have for you a song, The Sweet June Days. It's number 65 in your hymnal, and I invite you to stand if you're so moved and sing along.
That was lovely. I'm Anne Marie, coming to you from Portland, Maine, and bringing you a story for all. Today, I will be reading a little bit from this wonderful book, The Book of Brilliant Bugs, written by Jess French and illustrated by Claire McElfatrick. Now, this first bug here is in honor of Pride Month, and it is called a rainbow shield bug. As you know, there are so many kinds of bugs that we can't even name them all. So just for today, I'm going to share a little bit about how they are so very important to us. They're some of the most important creatures on our planet. And without them, many plants and animals would disappear altogether. Change the page, please. And we're going to be talking a little bit today about pollinators. Pollinators are all around us. There are so many kinds of pollinators. And as you know, some of the most important ones are here on this page. There's bees and butterflies and moths. Some of the pollinators are actually matched up partners. So one time when I was quite young, I wondered, well, what is the purpose of wasps? Well, wasps are also pollinators, and they can specifically pollinate their own kinds of plants. For instance, in this page, you'll see fig fruit. There are wasps that are specific to different kinds of figs. And once they pollinate them, they live in the fig for the rest of their life. You see the butterflies and the moths. They have this wonderful long tube called a proboscis, and they are looking for nectar and sweet scents, and they will pollinate their flowers from one to the other, flowers and fruits and plants, one to the other. And that is how the plants will grow. And that is how we have vegetables and lovely flowers. Turn the page, please. So pollinate, all of these bugs also help the planet. You can see all the different ways. They do pollinate, like we just shared, but they also are part of the food chain. A lot of animals rely on bugs in order to survive. And they are also recycling enthusiasts. They help us to move things along, clean up the debris and the garbage, and they just eat lots of dead things for us. And they control pests. We know that there are some really good bugs that help our gardens grow, and by taking care of the bugs that might otherwise destroy our gardens. And they're also nature's gardeners. They're down under the soil, and they are aerating, creating tunnels that let all of the roots have some air in there and move the nutrients around. Turn the page, please. Now, the other thing we know, we've come to know very much lately, is that there are bugs at risk all over the world. Bugs are rapidly disappearing. And this is mostly because of the changes that we humans bring to the planet. And we know too that if we don't alter our behavior, they might vanish altogether. So some of the things that harm them, they get very confused by unnatural light. So when we keep our lights on, that can really disorient them and draw them into the wrong places. And of course, there's also climate change that has really affected the number of species and where they are and where they aren't, and harmful chemicals, and their habitats are lost, you know, when we pave things. So we need to be very much more careful about how we take care of our bugs. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later today. Our wonderful Hallie has been working hard to help us understand pollinator gardens. And turn the page, please. There, in this particular book, they are encouraging folks to build a bug habitat, or hotel as they call it. And most of us have these natural places in our landscape, in our yards, and we leave them be. Bugs will come and they will survive because we don't eliminate the places where they need to live. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later today. Now I'm going to introduce Tina, and she's going to tell us why we are all here gathered together at the meeting house. Thank you.
That's my phone, sorry. Thank you for introducing me. And yes, please join me in reciting or saying our affirmation, please. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the needs of all beings, to then all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine, Thus do we covenant with each other and with the source of our being.
So I'm here today to read you just a little bit from Joanna Macy. We've been talking about Joanna Macy's work throughout the year, our service year. And today I'm going to read to you one of the pieces I read when we started off our theme for the year. We have received an inestimable gift to be alive in this beautiful self-organizing universe, to participate in the dance of life with senses to perceive it, lungs that breathe it, organs that draw nourishment from it. It is a wonder beyond words, and it is, moreover, an extraordinary privilege to be accorded a human life with self-reflexive consciousness that brings awareness of our own actions and the ability to make choices. It lets us choose to join the praising and the healing of our world. May it be so. Thank you, Joanna Macy. And we have a reflection time now.
So we've talked a lot this year about the effects of empire on our world. And we've focused on creating Earth community. And today we're wrapping it all up. Back in February, we had a service where we wrote down, I wrote down what you all said. And Julaine, would you do the first slide of, this is the effects of empire that came from this group. I'm just going to read them out loud. Lack of universal health care, starvation wages must require universal one. Not sure exactly what that means, but we said it. Lies and denial. Lots of that going around. Hungry people. Unhoused. Environmental havoc. Restricting voting rights. Misplaced priorities. Full prisons. Overturning Roe v. Wade. Playing God. Okay, so listening to that, reading that, what I'd like to ask you today is, how does that make you feel? So give me a chance to write empire here. How do you feel when you hear that?
Helpless.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Helpless.
Disappointed.
Disappointed. Helpless. Disappointed.
Stephanie says angry.
Okay, hold on. Disappointed. Me?
Yes.
Okay, disappointed. Angry.
Yeah.
Sad. 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 Anyone else?
Motivated.
Motivated.
Ah.
Wow.
Good one.
Anybody on Zoom?
Well, we had Steffi, but one other. I mean, are there any others?
I can't see.
Not seeing any.
Say disgusted.
Disgusted. There does seem to be a theme here. Dick.
Frustrated.
Frustrated.
I guess scared. Scared, kind of
Scared.
helpless, but scared,
Depressed.
depressed.
Oppressed.
Oppressed. I think we've got a sense here. That we could add other words, but I like that there's a little variety in here too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob, for the motivated word. So if we could switch to the Earth community one, effects of Earth community. Okay. I have to walk over here to read it. Oh, there we go. Sorry. All right, listening to one another.
And earth.
And earth. It's our theme for the year. Ripples of kindness to all. Human dignity prevalent. Wonderful young women leaders. Community gardens. Salvation Farms. Cooperation. Respect for indigenous wisdom. Black River Action Team. Alternative energy. Women in leadership. Ooh.
Ooh.
So how does that make you feel?
Hopeful.
Hopeful.
Inspired.
Inspired.
Connected.
Grateful.
Grateful, grateful.
Grace.
Graced. And I'm going to add smiles.
Stronger. Responsible.
Responsible. I'd like to just point out that that's response able to respond. Responsible.
More ways than one.
The EAP, I can't remember. A whole different feeling.
Yeah.
And maybe out of the connected and feeling hopeful and inspired, we become stronger and able to respond. Activated. For instance, what Kelly Stetner did. She created the Black River Action Team, and look at the results over how many decades now that she has rounded people up to help clean up the Black River. Activated. So, what a contrast. Just here this morning, reading these lists and responding, a whole different feel. And of course, if we had to choose, we're going to let go of this stuff and move over to this. And if we can change the slide again, we actually, back in February, came up with action steps. Okay, here we go.
In February,
Yeah,
we did
that it was, I think, well, what, some date in February. Strive for understanding. Vote, appreciate, communicate with legislatures. Believe, trust yourself. Do less of the harmful stuff. Lead by example. Less is more. I love that phrase. Well, it depends on what you're meaning of it. Less is better, less is more, it's better, yeah. Outlaw marketing. Buy nothing, build a gift economy. Speak truth to power. Vastly different concept of money. I'm hearing a theme here. Forming discussion groups, purchasing alternative energy. And we have a few more. Okay. Don't abstain from politics. Population control. Microloans to women. Enough garden space. Enough garden space, population. VPIRG. Talking.
What is VPIRG?
Vermont Public Interest Research Group. They do a lot of really good work on environmental stuff, yeah. Supporting activists. I would add to that, becoming activists. Finding sacred places. I just want to add to that, that when we were talking about this in our worship committee, we talked around that finding sacred places, and we felt like, to us, every place is sacred. In some places, people have forgotten that, and so it doesn't reflect that feel. But in truth, every place is sacred. So maybe that would be
Recovering the sacred.
recovering the sacred
Yeah.
in every place.
Yeah.
So those are action steps that we had suggested, all of us, whoever of you were here that day. And so, yeah, well, we want to be successful in whatever action steps we take. So we can't, it's not as easy to be successful if you take 10 or 20 action steps. If you take one that's doable, you're likely to get it done. Maybe two. I say cut off 3. I mean, we can always add more in the future. But let's just think about, well, I'm going to write down action steps. One of them is something we're going to do here today. And as most of you know, Hallie has been working with organizations to allow some areas to not be mowed so we can have pollinator parks. And Hallie will tell us more about where that effort is. But we want to encourage it not just at the hospital and the town and the schools, which is all very good, but for all of us as well. And I'm sure we're the kind of people that do that sort of thing. But today we're going to have an opportunity to go and plant a few plants under the trees out here. And they're violets and Johnny jump ups. They easily hold their own. And there will be a few extra. If you don't have any of those, you're welcome to take some home. And then have that energetically linked with here in the meeting house. So I would say action step that we're already doing is, well, let's call it pollinator parks. Okay. Pollinator parks. And Hallie, maybe this would be a good time for you to get up and just share a little bit.
I think I've done this often enough, so most of you are acquainted with what we've been trying to do up on the hospital hillsides, and had a good start a few years ago with the blessing of the then administration. And last year, we tried to make contact with the new administrator, and he was too busy with the budget, come back in July, and I went back in July, and everything had been mowed to smithereens. So several years and a few $100s worth of investment and work on the hillsides with planting and seeds and nurturing, it was all gone. It was actually, there's one lupin that survived, and it's up in the corner. This would be the hillside on the left as you're driving up to the hospital.
The steep hillside.
The steep hillside that's below the upper parking lot. And as it's over in the corner where the drive to the upper parking lot, and there's a lovely daisy that's growing right alongside the lupin. I put a little fence around it. So I think that Josh Dufresne, who was the original administrator, who thought it was a great idea and approved it and helped us get signage and get started. I think I talked to him, maybe 3 months ago now. But I think he may have nudged the present administrator a bit, because so far they have not mowed the two hillsides, the very steep hillsides that are loaded with wildflowers, and they're gorgeous. They just mowed around the very bottom. We have made a presentation last Tuesday night to the board. It was just in the public speaking time, so it wasn't very long. And we had Josie Hingston put together a nice things to email, what a plan and goals and so on, that hopefully the administration and the board will look over and see, and we hope that we can continue this. In the meantime, the group that has coalesced, we have a kind of Cheryl Joy Lipton, who was took us on a tour around this church, was it last year? And I can't remember, but she's a professional landscape architect, ecologist, and she's great. She's been a big help on the project, and
she lives in Chester.
she lives in Chester. Josephine Hingston has been a big help. Also this past week, I was interviewed by a young woman, Isabella, who is working for the Springfield Reporter, and Rod Arnold, when he found out she was interested in this kind of thing, he said, "Oh, you need to call Hallie Whitcomb and do an article." So we had an interview, and one of the new gals on our little group came, and so we'll see what happens. And I think that's going to be an ongoing something that she'll report on. Yesterday, Alumni Day, I managed to connect with both the vice principal and the principal at high school. I had been told by somebody else that the vice principal could be a key person to work with, so I saw them at the beginning of the parade and connected, so that was good. And I have been in touch with the superintendent, and so we hope to move on the schools. Also, this group that has now, we see that in the town plan, there is a conservation commission or committee listed, but there is none active. So we're hoping to have an active conservation group going that is somehow going to dovetail with the sustainability committee, which is searching for members also. So I think that'll be a great way to be talking with the town about what we can do on a townwide basis. I would mention that even right up here, when you're right out down going from Riverside out Route 11 and where it turns up to the hospital on Park Street, that whole area on the left that they mow to smithereens all the time is it's very impoverished area. The soil and plants are they're near dead because it's so much mowing. And that's one area where I'd like to work with the town on mitigating the mowing, and try to do maybe some here and there. So again, people know that it's being tended, but have areas where the wildlife and the plants are allowed to come, because it's just dying off, and it's so sad. Like the cemeteries, same thing, just dead zones all over the cemeteries.
I'd just like to add, when you said so people know that it's being tended,
Yeah.
the signage.
Yeah, signage is critical, and we're working on that too, absolutely critical. So at the Hospital Hill, I'm hoping to work with maybe some artists and woodworkers to have a couple of nice wood signs that maybe just say Pollinator Park or something brief, but that's obvious. Yeah, Dick.
Is there a widely recognized graphic symbol that stands for not mowing for pollination
Well,
purposes?
bees are usually,
What?
bees are, a picture of a bee usually expresses, I think that's the most common symbol that you see.
Is that like a global sign, a symbol, or not really, but
No, it's used on, there was a talk given by the Garden Club last Wednesday about native plants and pollinators, and wasn't very well attended, but I'm glad I went, and I talked with that guy about signage. So we're working on it. Yeah.
And maybe some sort of slightly larger marketing campaign.
Yes,
On social media, on the town sites, just to
we'll,
let people know. Yeah.
yes, we'll be working on, we made this brochure, which we keep handing out, even though the hospital, they used to have it around, but don't, and there's a lot of good information in that. So we keep handing that out, and if the Springfield Reporter is willing to do articles, but that, of course, they're only online. And we talked about how we'd love to have some paper copies around town that could be accessible for people to pick up for all kinds of reasons. And how does that get funded? Would the town even fund something that would have some paper copies of the Springfield Report? So those are some of the things we're working on.
And this is, of course, an ongoing thing. And, you know, we'll keep that conversation going as it develops, but I'm sure there are ways that we all can be involved.
Well, and just talking to people and neighbors and friends about this and why it's so important that our lives are dependent on these insects and birds, the larger ecosystem that we're demolishing big time. It is pretty sad how the numbers are depleted of all these insects and birds, and it's largely because of
And you would think they would be glad not to have to mow that. I mean, that's Steve Hill.
yeah, I think, but the problem is they get complaints from people. That's the issue. They would be happy not to mow it, but then they, well, you know, it looks so messy. Why aren't you mowing this? Don't you have money enough to keep it looking neat? So it's a huge education
Yes.
and resetting the clock of what's beautiful. And every time I go past big mowed areas, I shudder. It's horrible. But to a lot of people, oh, this looks so nice. So changing, if you understand this education, what is going on and how those are just dead zones, then you. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this part of it to a close. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. We'll keep going. I want to have a chance to look at potentially other action steps. So if we could have that action step, let's see, the first, can we have the 2 action step slides up, Julaine? And see if there's another one or pushing it 2. Here we go. I'm going to point out that we have a few on, you say buy nothing, gift economy, you know, a different, vastly different concept of money. And some of you may remember back when we had done that here in the church, where people offered goods or services for each other, and we would trade, etc. So that might be something, what would we say, gift economy? Buy nothing, gift economy.
I'd like to explore more of the gift economy.
Gift economy.
Yeah.
Any other? Yeah, I see a nod over here. So that's something I think we might have a little more discussion. If anybody had a quick thought about that.
Reuse. You will find out in the activities room, I have a box of these coffee bags. They're fantastic for trash, or I use them for trash. It takes me about 2 weeks to fill one of these up, trash. Or I have all these birdseed bags that are also great for trash. Also, if you don't put food waste in your trash, if we're not supposed to, you can reuse these. Just dump it in the trash container or the dump and take it back. You can do that. And I also use these for storing potatoes, for instance. They don't want light. These are so solidly built. Both these. It's a shame to use them once and throw them out. I'm trying to find ways to reuse them, but I don't go through enough trash. So I brought a bunch of them, and feel free to take them, and it's aroma there.
Oh, yeah,
Just reuse.
that's really great.
Where did you get those?
The coffee bags come from the co-op where I'm out, you know, doing all their trash. They just throw them away, and I pick them up, get the remaining coffee beans out of them. And
Yeah. So anything else up on this list? And could we look at the other list? Yeah. That calls to you that you want to
I say,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say vote.
vote.
Vote is one of the simplest things that we can do, and then education around it, because so many people feel like their vote doesn't count. And so, I mean, the percentage of people that vote in the United States, it's usually around 50%. So if we all got together and voted for the things we believed in, it could make a huge difference.
Right.
Thank you, Matt. I think that's a great idea. I'm guessing that this crew pretty much votes,
Yeah.
but we might be involved in, a campaign to get more people who
Getting people to
Who are-
places.
feeling helpless, disappointed, angry, etc.
Right.
don't feel empowered, that they don't want to vote. Yes, Dan.
Or we might practice doing more voting in this congregation, like voting on where the pollinators are gonna be. How things are gonna work and, that kind of stuff,
You mean the pollinator gardens?
whatever.
Yeah, okay.
One thing that I know in the campground, we've been doing a lot of this. And we pick and choose the native species that grow there. For example, we have a lot of invasives, and this whole back field is just behind.
That people here have been working on. And it's,
a
yeah,
mouthful right now.
that's
They take over the.
pollinator. But I just want to, we have a thing to do outside, and I just want to make sure we capture if there's a new idea of something we might take on as an action step.
I think Bill talked at the same time as me. Bill had something.
Oh, supporting the activists, which falls in line with what Matt said about voting and supporting, voters.
So is that a separate thing, supporting activists? I mean, we brought up a number of activists over this past year and supporting them and finding new ones. So I'll add that, supporting activists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you get her?
About invasive?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's somewhat related to the pollinator parks and, invasives might be something, well, it's something we are undertaking here, but maybe we could energize it and get more help for Dan and Richard and Dick and other people.
I can sit up there and offer my go. I can't do it, but I can
Cheering section.
cheering.
Rah-rah.
More.
Okay.
So Sharon,
Yes,
just on Zoom, wanted to say, I don't know if you have this over there, but it might be really nice to have, if you don't, a tool library where, going to that idea of buy nothing. Like where, sometimes I need a tool that I don't have, and be nice to know that someone in the community would be willing to lend.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea.
That's a great idea, and also an equipment.
well, I think that would be in there.
Tools and
covering
Yeah.
the larger, maybe
I
we
can't
could.
count the number of times I need a specific screwdriver and I've lost it, so I go buy another.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just go to the tool library.
I think that Anne Marie's idea of the tool library also kind of spins into the whole reality that if we don't have the tools, a lot of times we can't fix things that are around the house, and then they get discarded rather than being fixed and having an extended life for many years. So I love the idea of having tools, because that makes us more self-reliant in our ability to not purchase things.
Right.
Yes, yes, I think this is great. And it's getting, it's about 10 of 11. So we want to have a chance. What?
I'm
To go,
saying go.
to go outside.
There.
There are 4 holes out under the trees here. There are, the plants are on the patio, the brick patio out here. So Anne Marie is going to facilitate a discussion for those who are on Zoom or here and choose to stay inside. Thank you, June. And so 4 teams of 2 to go out and plant. If there are more than 8 people who want to go outside, we can be, like Tina said, the cheering section. And we are going to process out with a song that Julaine will start in just a moment. Now I Walk in Beauty. So it will be playing, recorded, and we can sing it as we process out. And I invite you to, not that you shouldn't talk or anything, but have sort of a ceremonial frame of mind as we go out and plant these plants, and wish them well. They're plants that thrive. So, Bob, could you go and open the patio doors and we can go right out there?
We were going to talk a little bit about, what is a pollinator garden, or do you have a pollinator garden, or how could you have one? Anybody want to talk to that?
Sure. Then you can see you, since you're the only one in here.
Can you guys see me?
I can.
There we go.
Okay. Hi, Thomas. Hi.
One of the things that came to mind for me, and when Hallie was talking about, kind of the no-mow spaces, is that there's many reasons for those no-mow spaces that actually don't have to do with pollinators. I mean, the pollinators are a part of it, but when we allow the native plants to grow, like she was talking about, like a steep slope, without the native plants in that steep slope, the land itself is vulnerable to erosion on a larger level than it is, with grass. Things can really go, but if they're allowed, not mowed, but allowed to really deeply grow. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. The roots go deeper, and it holds things in place.
Right. So there's not erosion. That's another
Right.
thing that can happen.
So it's the pollinators are part of it, but there's actually many other ecological reasons to leave what is there in place.
Many reasons why. Yeah, I keep learning every month that we've been doing this theme. I'm learning more and more how important all those pieces are that we don't even see, like the microbes that are going on and grow and go out into the universe. But if we mow, like Hallie calls them, like dead spaces, and she's right. We kill a lot by mowing.
Yeah, and it's a monoculture, and a monoculture in itself is very vulnerable. If you look at, like, say, Dutch elms or something, everybody planted elms and then they got a disease and now we don't have them. It's a really dangerous ecological idea to plant monocultures of anything. So when you let the native species repopulate an area, then you're getting rid of the monoculture. You're getting, plants that have roots that spread, and also plants that have deep roots. And so you end up with a whole ecosystem there in the soil that wouldn't be there just with grass. So it's
Once again, diversity. Steffi,
Yeah.
did you have something?
I did. I commented something in the chat, but I don't know if anybody saw it. So I work in marketing, and I actually just worked with a client that I thought you guys would all love to hear about. So their name is called Dignity
Bill,
Coconut.
can you call people in?
Yeah, that's what,
And
Are they
this,
coming?
Dignity Coconut.
yeah, and this company, I didn't know that slavery and trafficking was so rampant in like the coconut business. And this company is dedicated to not only producing sustainable coconut products, but helping people escape from slavery and trafficking. Their entire, like everything they do was fantastic. So I definitely suggest anybody checking them out, especially if you use a lot of like coconut products, because they do like coconut oil, coconut everything. And I just was really like, I got chills reading like the story behind everything that they're dedicated to doing. And I had no idea, because I'm somebody who buys a lot of coconut oil, that I was unfortunately contributing to keeping people in slavery by buying, wherever.
Right, so increasing our awareness. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Stephanie.
sharing that, because I use a lot of coconut too, so now I'm going to be
Yeah.
more careful.
And
I'm going to look them up.
I feel like they're not overly unaffordable. I felt like their products were quite affordable, and they're really dedicated to helping people in the countries where coconuts are harvested to escape slavery and trafficking, because it's very rampant, which I had no idea.
We are
Broke my heart.
mostly returned from outside.
And for our closing words, I'm going to be reading from David Korten's book. We've also been reading a lot of his words this year. Change the story, change the future, a living economy for a living earth. Embracing the sacred life and living earth story frame, a living wealth economics will recognize that we belong to earth. Earth does not belong to us. It will guide us to an economy in which we meet our human needs through our active participation in and positive contribution to the ecosystem. If we can get our story right, we can get our institutions right. If we can get our institutions right, we get our future right. And now we will turn off the recording. And what? And we'll turn off the candle, and we'll have the gong